Welcome back to Self-Built. Today you are in for a good one. This is a build video. What we're going over today are lever arms. They're also known as jammer arms, trolley arms. There's a lot of different names for them, but they're a very similar idea. I've done a lot of research on different builds that I've seen out there, different ideas, and things that I wanted to incorporate into my particular setup to make the most functional ones I've ever seen. What I've come up with may look pretty similar to what you've seen, but we'll go over features and some nifty things about this, so stay tuned. Here's a close-up of these arms, just so you can get an idea of what these look like. Now you may notice on this thing there's a couple goofy things on here. This you're able to attach to your home gym two different ways. One way from here, the other way from here. My gym, it's a front mount setup. I've seen some side mount ones. I don't have a power rack, so I don't have that option. So with this, hopefully this gives you some ideas if you have the same similar setup that I have, or you can still set this up with a power rack. But let me show you what we do. Now the first one that was set up, you're gonna hook it onto a bar. If you don't have a Smith machine, you can just use a normal barbell. I would recommend putting weights on the sides just to secure it, because what this will do is it'll attach right here, just like that. Super simple, super quick. Same thing with this arm, just like that, and you're ready to go. Now, there are a couple cool things with this. Since it's stuck to the bar, there's only forward and backward. So if you don't want to do rotation, this is a perfect setup. You can also adjust the width of the bar, or the width of the handles that you want to do, or you can rotate sides if you want to just do whatever you want. I mean, there's no rules. I've been using these for about 2-3 weeks and they're awesome. I'm just barely scratching the surface on these. I'm going to come out with some videos of showing you different ways to use these, but you can set it up this way. I also like that you can adjust the height, so that way whatever exercise you're doing, you can have it however you want. The weights just go right on the front, just like this, and just like that. Now you can see I've got a pipe that is pushing this weight way far out. That was to make it so there's a leverage against you, so you don't have to do as much weight, not as much strain on the bar, or whichever way that you're hanging on to this. So that way it just seems a lot more economical. You don't have to put tons of weight on here. Something that may seem like a back draw, or may not, it just depends on you, is when you're doing this setup, there's nothing holding these weights back, so when you add weight, it's gonna wanna teeter back. I've got one thing here to fix that. These little eye bolts right here. These are multi-usable. One unique thing about these are the eye bolts in here. You can use these eye bolts for 3 different reasons that I've come up with so far. First one is when you've got your arm on the bar and you put weight on, it's gonna tilt back so it can center itself. And what you'll do is you'll attach a chain to some sort of anchor or weight, and then you'll be able to pull it. So it'll limit how far back it can go. So that way you're not reaching way far back to get it to where it's feeling heavy. Another thing you can do is I like to attach a handle to this. So when you're doing like a row or a press, that way it changes up the grip. The third thing is you can hook cables to this. So if you don't want to use a weight, you can hook up a cable to this. So that way you've got another way of making it harder. Okay, so I'm going to fight the urge of just keep talking about more things that this can do, because you'll be able to see it for yourself when you build these. So let's get into the build. I'll leave a list of pieces of equipment that I used, or just what you need to build this, in the description below. So don't forget to check that out, and let's get to that build. Here's a quick layout of some supplies and tools you may need if you're wanting to build something similar to what I'm doing today. First thing we do is cut this 4x4 into two 38-inch long segments. Then after that, the remaining piece of wood we'll just cut into two 10-inch segments. And the last thing I'll cut is some scrap 2x4 that I found in my garage. I'll just make two 4-inch sections on it. Alright, this portion is going to be one of the ways that you can attach this to your gym. You can see I've got a 2x4 cut to the size. And then I've also got these little plates. What's going to happen is I'm going to put a piece of 4x4 here, and then this bracket. I'm going to drill it in here so that way it's really secure. And there's going to be a gap created here. And what I'm going to put in that gap is I've got a Smith machine bar. You can also use a barbell or anything, but this you can just slide it on something. It gives a lot more versatility of what you can set it up on. But this is one of the first ways this can hook up to other stuff. Alright, now that we've got that together, I've got this little clamp pinching everything together because I'm going to use this to attach everything. So I'll put it basically just like that, drill a couple pilot holes, put some screws in. We'll see how this thing goes. And I'll also do the same thing on the other side. Battery's getting low. Oh no! Okay, here is this bracket set up, and it feels solid. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see if it'll fit on my bar before I do the other one. All right, let's see how this fits. Like a glove. I think you guys might be seeing what's going on here. Just a preview though. Don't be getting any ideas. All right, I'll be doing the same thing as I did to the other one, just at super speed, just so you don't get bored. Okie doke. That phase is done. So we've got two that will connect to the barbells, anything like that. Next, I'm going to install where you put the weight and your handles. And then after that, I'm going to show you another way that you can make an attachment here so you can get two different types of workouts. Stay tuned. All right, next thing I'm going to do is be measuring for where I'm going to be placing the weight on these arms. And what I'm doing is I'm going to be putting the whole 10 inches from the bottom. Do that on both of these. And I'm doing something a little bit different. Instead of just mounting it to the front of the piece of the arm, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole through this arm. So it's going to go through and then it's going to mount on the back. So that way it's got support from holding onto the back and being inside the piece of wood. So if there's any wiggle or anything, that will take a lot of the brunt too. Perfect. Okay, so we got a 1-inch hole here. Gonna put a 1-inch or half-inch pipe through it. Pretty good fit. All right, let's do the other one. All right, we got holes in both of them all the way through. Next, we're gonna be putting our pipe that's gonna be holding the weight. So what I've got here are 1/2 inch, 18 inches long. And then I'll just be attaching it with this door flange. Okay, we left off where we were drilling some holes through our 4x4s. And just to show you real quick, so we left off here. This is where my camera battery died. So I went ahead and I finished one arm just so I can kind of point out what is going to be coming next. So what I'm going to be doing is I'll be putting this through here, and the reason I'm going to do that when you're looking at this arm with the weight, I'm going to have it way far away, so there's going to be quite a bit of stress on here. So I wanted it to be attached from the back. That way it's extra supported here, and if this ever starts to give way, it's got all of this wood that it can lean on. So it just gives it extra support, and I've never seen anyone do it that way, so that's another reason. But very easy. Just let it drop in. Drop it in just like that. And then I'll drill some pre-holes just so the wood doesn't split. At least try to minimize it. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you're going to do it like I'm doing it here, let me show you this completed arm. And let's see, right here, you can see how flush this is right here. I tried to screw it down as tight as it would possibly go because otherwise there would be a big gap, and I just want this to be one solid unit. So when you're doing it, just be sure to try to really crank it down, because there's about a 1/4 inch gap before you really crank it down. Alright, let me show you a closer look. So I'm going to kind of go back and forth in a different pattern to kind of work this down instead of just cranking one down all the way. So we'll go a little bit. What are you doing? Get back on there. Alright. That really squeezes it in. It's not going anywhere now. So now you got this. Crank it down a little bit. And then to finish this part, got just a 45-degree angle, 1/2 inch. And then this is, I think it's somewhere around like 8 inches or so. I'll give you the full details in the description, and I'll probably add some in just so you can follow along. Crank it like that. So that way you'll be having leverages working against you, so you don't need as much weight for it to feel as heavy. So that way this gets less wear, and if you don't have very heavy weights, it also helps in your advantage that way too. So that way this, you've got one attachment here, your weights here. Next thing we're going to do is build the handle. I'll show you what that looks like. Here's a layout of the pieces for each handle. I went with a 1/2 inch size pipe. You can do 1 inch size, whatever size that you like, but I decided to go with 1/2 inch. And I'll show you how to put it together right here. Once your handle is assembled, make sure you put it on the correct side of your lever arm. You wouldn't want it to be on the same side as the other. I'm just going to attach it down with some screws. These are 3-inch screws that I'm using for everything, just so I know it gets a nice secure fit.
The handle is securely on there. Next thing we need to do is attach the top mount portion. You can see it attaches right to a caster. That gives you mobility and you can swivel with it. Gives you a lot more free range of motion. Attaching it is very easy. I just stick it right in the middle of the wood and I'm just going to screw it down. And then after that I'm just going to tighten it down really tight with my hand and we'll do some testing with it. Next we're going to disassemble the wheel caster. All you need is just to take that nut off of it. I'm going to pull the bolt out, take the brake off, and it comes all apart. Next we're going to drill a hole through it. This isn't the most secure, but I just use some vice grips. Use a little punch to start the hole, or at least give it a groove to work in. You want to work your sizes up with your drill bits, just makes it a little bit easier. We got the bolt portion part all done, so that looks great. Lots of free motion in that thing. Gonna tighten it down right here. Next we're gonna work on the eye bolt portion towards the bottom of the arm. This will give you a lot of different variety you can do. This one's very simple. All you do is you're just going to drill a hole through and then you just tighten it in. When you start to tighten it in, this might get a little difficult, so you can use some sort of tool to get a little extra leverage, so that way it's really snug in there. We got both the arms in the gym attached to the bar. You see both ways to attach it. You can see if you look in the middle here, there's a little bit of wiggle room and some space. So we're going to fill that in with a little piece of pipe that I've cut on the other arm. I'll show you how I did that. Makes it way more stable and secure. What I'm doing here is cutting the pipe just about in half. I'm using the first cut as a template, just kind of making some marks. And there's a couple ways you can cut this pipe. You can use a handsaw, but in this case, I did the handsaw on the first one. This time I'm going to go with the Dremel. Give the a shot, makes it a lot quicker and a lot easier. Alright, it's cut in half. I want it to be a super snug tight, so I made it barely fit. Hammered it right in. That way it's not going anywhere. Now you can give it a little check, and it's not wiggling side to side at all. Very secure. Now we're going to work on this top portion.
Next thing I'm doing here is I'm just putting some screws into my squat rack just to add this caster. And that's not a very exciting thing, so just imagine I screwed a hole there and put some bolts in. So that's the second way we can attach the arms.
This top mount is working very well. Gives me that free motion that I'm looking for, but I do see one big weakness that I'll need to address. It's these threads at the very top that I'm afraid they'll come loose when I'm doing heavy weight and pushing it because it'll be twisting. So I'm gonna come up with a way to make it so those will not move. I've got some thread locker here, and I'm planning on putting that all over the threads and then crank it down as tight as it'll go. Let it cure for at least a day and then come back and see how it is. The only weakness that I see with this is if you try to go too wide, that the back portion will hit the rail. But with how wide it is, I don't know if that'll really be needed. Definitely goes in perfectly. It's just if you're going super duper wide, that might be an issue. Gonna make sure to really torque it down with these vice grips. It also helps with it attached to the bar itself. It hangs on to it, so I can just really put my weight into it. Gonna do the next thing, same thing on the other one. And by the way, if you've never smelled this stuff, it smells kind of funny. Just want to make sure it never comes loose. It's been over 24 hours, so we're going to test these babies out, see how they do. I've got about 70 pounds on each side. Haven't had any issues, hasn't come unthreaded or anything like that. So I think this is a success. So I'll keep pushing it, see how much more weight we can do a little bit later, but I'll call that good. Now it's time to make it look pretty. I'm gonna sand it down, and then I'll put a little bit of paint on it to make it look a little more exciting. And then I'll go back to a couple more features that you can get from these arms.
All right, so these are perfect for just doing that straight forwards or backwards motion. They're awesome for that. You don't have to really worry about stabilizing or the arms moving in any crazy direction. But when you're feeling spicy or something like that, you do have that option. All you gotta do is attach it right up here. Just like that. And what we're attaching it to are these little pipes right here that are screwed into the wood. You can see the hole that's screwed in. And all you do is just attach it to these casters right here. And it's fairly simple. Okay, now when you've got it hooked up to the top, you've got all sorts of crazy motion. So you can move this wherever you want. So if you want more free motion, you just hook it up to the top and you're ready to go. So if you want to do like a fly and a press, you can do all sorts of awesome stuff. The only disadvantage to this one is it's a fixed height, at least with my setup. So you're not able to adjust the height, so you just have to adjust yourself to the height. So for example, if I've got a bench press and I'm wanting to do like a decline, instead of with my bench being able to only go so low, I'll just stand against the pad, and that way I'm able to do the exercise that I want to do. So you just have to do a couple small modifications, but it is still awesome, and it gives you the feel of so many gyms, that so many different pieces of equipment that gyms have. It's awesome. One extra benefit that's really cool besides the sweet swivels is you can have a bar behind here. So when you add weight, the bar can only, or the arm can only go this far back. So that way you don't have to worry about anchoring it or pulling it to where it starts to give you that good resistance. I do have a few safety tips for you, because safety comes first. The last thing you want is some sort of accident or anything like that. With my setup, I put a lot of weight on the back portion. As you can see right down there, I put some weight, because if you put so much weight on these arms and you're pushing out, this will start to lean forward quite a bit, and you don't want anything to topple over while you're working out. That'll totally mess up your pump. So don't be doing any of that, and just take it nice and easy. I don't know how much weight these are rated for. My biggest worry is probably these casters. They're rated at 350 pounds, but that's with it being compressed, not being pulled apart. So don't go too crazy, just take it nice and easy. I mean, that's one reason that I had these arms hold the weight so far out, so you don't have to put much weight on them to get a crazy good workout. So far, I've put, the most I've done so far is just 70 pounds on the arm, and that's pretty heavy. With it being so far out, it was good. All right, and that is the end of the video. I hope that really helped you guys out, give you some ideas. This has been a very fun build, and hopefully you build these. Definitely let me know if you do. Tell me what ideas that you've come up with. So don't forget to like the video right here. Also subscribe, comment down below. You can see me on the Tik, the Gram, whatever you want to call it. And we will see you next time on Self Built.